Nothing, and I mean nothing, will cause you to want to throw your sewing machine just straight at a wall like not understanding your stitch tension will. There honestly isn't a more annoying or confusing setting on a sewing machine. Well, what do you look for? How does it work? And is that the reason why your tailored clothes are kind of sort of looking a little bit crappy? Well, it might be. I don't like long intros though. They're kind of the bane of my existence. Let's do this. Now your top thread and your bottom thread, what they kind of essentially do is they play a game of tug of war. What they do is they pull at each other like this, which is good because that's what makes your stitch nice and locked in. But one of them might not play too nicely and end up pulling at the other one more than it should, or vice versa, and that's you don't want any of that nonsense. Or what could also happen is one of them won't pull at the other one at all. Kind of sort of acts like a wet blanket. You know, like when you were a kid and you didn't want to go somewhere and someone tried dragging you by your arm and you just went all limp like this and just like, oh, it's just, oh. I sewed this stitch right here. I sewed this with a really loose tension, and yo, look at that thing. I can just pull that thing right out. I can snip it with the seam ripper and just boop, out it comes. The bottom thread, the thread in our bobbin, yo, it can't do anything in that scenario because the top thread, since our tension is set so loose, it's not doing its part. It's not doing its job. It's not doing any of the pulling. And this one right here, this is what happens when your stitch tension is set way too tight. Yo, look at that thing. The top thread is pulling on that bottom thread so much that it's pulling the thread essentially up through our garment. We don't want that at all. Let's back up a little bit though. Your thread tension is exactly what you think it is. It's the tension of your top stitch and your bottom stitch together. Or how much they're pulling at each other or not pulling at each other too. Now you want your tension to be looser and thicker materials and then tighter and thinner materials. Hold on. Let's back up a little bit more. Let's start at the very top of your sewing machine. Your stitch tension usually probably goes anywhere from 0 to 9, right? Give or take a couple of different numbers. And that sweet spot is, it's usually just kind of right in the middle, like 3 to 5. Here's a really handy trick for you. Sew a stitch with the incorrect stitch settings and then use your fingers to kind of, give it a cop, give it a feel. But do you notice anything at all? That top stitch, it kind of moves from side to side a little bit. Doesn't really feel like it's doing that much, right? Well, that's because your tension is set way too loose, but to the naked eye, yeah, you might not really pick up on that instantly. It might look just fine. Well, then let's dive even deeper into this problem and you say to yourself, okay, cool, I got my sewing machine all set up, I got a thread, I got my stitch tension all set up, but SD, yo, I'm still having problems, man. I don't really get it. Well, that's when I counter and I come back at you and I say, well, did you make sure that when you thread your machine that your presser foot was up and not down? You did? Okay, good, because that's the correct way to do it. Oh, whoa. You didn't do it that way? I'm SD, and if you're new, I show guys like you how to tailor their own clothes at home so you don't have to wear baggy clothes anymore. So if that sounds like it's your jam, be sure to click that subscribe button down below. Well, then that might be one of the problems that you're running into because, see, your stitch tension, well, it's basically, imagine 2 discs inside of your sewing machine. And these discs, well, they go like this, either controlling or not controlling your tension at all. And when your presser foot is up, it's gonna allow that thread to just slide on through there. Yo, those 2 discs are just wide open. Yes, these are appetizer plates, and if I drop these, I am gonna get in trouble from the significant other. But when your presser foot is down, they just snap on clothes like that. Well, they don't really snap clothes, they become more and more narrow. And you think that you thread your machine properly, but I'm sorry, you didn't. What happened is you did thread it right, but the thread, it's not actually going in between the tension discs. It's just kind of just chilling there, not really doing much. All of those are good, check. Okay, well, let's move on down to the bottom of our sewing machine, all down by that bobbin down there, because I don't know if you know this or not, but it actually has its own tension. And now that I said that, completely forget that I said that because it doesn't really matter, because what happens is the manufacturer, what they do is they don't really trust you, so they say, we want this machine to be set to this tension, so don't touch it. No, for real though, what they ended up doing is they set it and they put some glue on top of this so you can't mess with it, but don't worry, it's not really a big deal. Basically what that means is they know exactly what the tension of that bobbin should be set at, so they do it perfectly for that machine, and then, well, you're good. You never ever have to touch it. In the event that you want to change anything, you can. Don't do it. You might end up voiding your manufacturer's warranty. Everything that you're going to change is going to be on top of your machine. Stitch tension is set correctly in accordance to the garment that you're tailoring, right? Check. You made sure to thread your machine properly, making sure that the thread actually went through those tension discs by making sure that the presser foot was up like this and not down like this, right? Check. You checked out the bottom of your sewing machine and you said, well, since I can't mess with that bobbin down there, can't mess with that tension, it's automatically going to be good. Making sure that my machine is relatively new, manufacturer handled it for me, we're good, right? Check. Yo, SD, what's going on? My clothes, they don't look very good. My tension is still all sorts of messed up. Well, check this out. Maybe your thread is the problem. Now, I am a huge advocate and I am a huge fan of using just kind of all-purpose, run-of-the-mill, cheap thread that you can get at Walmart. I'm a huge advocate of that. Well, at least at first. And as time goes on, like everything, you're going to want to upgrade. You're going to want to upgrade your machine. You're going to probably upgrade your needles. Well, guess what else? You're going to end up upgrading your thread too. Why? Well, it's a very simple reason, actually. Cheap thread, well, what it does is it kind of just goes poof. It shreds and it just leaves lint and just all sorts of stuff just all over the place. Now, don't get me wrong. When you're starting out, I want you to go out and spend like $2 on a spool of thread. I do not want you to spend $10 on a spool of thread. Because let's be honest, a lot of the stuff that you're gonna be tailoring in the beginning, it's gonna cost you like $4 for a t-shirt. So it doesn't make much sense at all to like drop a whole bunch of money on accessories. But as time goes on and you become more comfortable with this and more educated and you learn more about it, you need to upgrade your thread first and foremost, because not only does it affect your tension, it affects like everything about your project. Same with waxy thread. It can kind of just get all on the inside of your machine. You don't want that, no bueno, but guess where else it gets where you really don't want it? Right in between those tension discs. Same with the lint. Gets right in between those tension discs. They don't like stuff being in there, so then they don't really work appropriately. I made a video about buying a used cheap sewing machine, and one of the things that I've said in that video, in addition to a number of other videos that I've made, is the fact that the fundamental concept of every single sewing machine has not changed in any way, shape, or form in about 120 years. So there's one part of your sewing machine that has changed a lot. You see, what they used to do is they used to put your stitch tension plates on the outside of your machine. Like, you could see them doing their thing. You could see them doing their job. They would open like that and they would squeeze closed depending on what it was you were doing on your machine. And that's all good and great and grand and well. But a problem that you might run into is you are just so excited that you got a steal of a deal on that machine. You paid like 40 bucks for it, but little do you know that that stitch tension on the outside, those plates, they can be an absolute nightmare to deal with. You cannot fix them by yourself. The manufacturer can fix them, but they're probably going to charge you a lot more money than that machine is worth, and a lot more money than you paid for that machine. So if you are out looking for a nice cheap sewing machine and you go watch that video in the end card right there, remember that. Yes, you will get a steal of a deal. You can get a steal of a deal, but make sure that that stitch tension, make sure that it works properly. And if it doesn't work properly, just maybe end up steering clear and spend a little bit more money to make sure that the stitch tension is inside of the machine. I feel like a politician getting all fired up about sewing machines. Oh! That's all I got for you. SD out. Deuces.